Okay, so you're doing the recording. Okay.
Yes, I am. I'm recording this. I've been recording all of my sections thus far.
Oh no.
Anyways, welcome
Wow.
to Tabletop Storytime. Although I haven't been streaming them, I've just been recording them.
Well, yeah.
Alright, so, Tabletop Storytime. So, the first story that comes to mind, I remember I referenced the story earlier in one of my panels, but I forgot what it was. Anyways, so, I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was telling me about the story he had. So, the group of them showed up to this big fight, and the boss came out and walks up to his character. And his character, I think, is like a paladin, frontline tank, meant to take the punishment, all that good jazz. And apparently, just walks up to her, the character, and just like tosses her into the woods. Just like rolls, throws her, basically, literally throws her out of the fight, right? Well, the player is really salty about this. Like, he was not happy, and it's as it was of course, it's a boss fight with a whole bunch of other characters, and there's a sniper giving them trouble. So the character marches up to the sniper. The sniper is not aware that they've arrived, and then they roll to attack, and they crit the sniper. Now, the funny part of the story is this weapon. I don't know what the heck type of enchantment this weapon has, but apparently when you hit with this, it summons some sort of plant. So when he crit this sniper, suddenly a log appeared and crushed the sniper dead. The sniper straight up didn't even know they were there. They just went and log.
Oh my
where
God.
the sniper was. WTF, mate? What the heck?
Greto.
So that's a fine story to start off with. I referenced this story earlier, but I can't remember what it was. I was talking about something, characters. Oh, well, whatever. Well, I think about it. Does anybody else have a fun little story to share?
There's this one character named Colorado who smashed an enemy through a wall. That was awesome.
That was great.
Good times, good times.
So let's see.
Oh, I actually have something.
Go on.
Just let me give myself a push to talk real quick. Okay, so this happened earlier in the week. I had just got off work and I was hanging out at this place, and I was like, I'm gonna join on this quick D&D game that I was originally gonna have to skip out on, but I was able to make it in time. And well, my characters and two others, they get captured, and later on they get rescued. And one of our players decides to just stop playing mid-session to go play Magic the Gathering.
Wait, what?
Yeah. And, well, some of our other players were pretty annoyed at this. So they killed his character right there on the spot.
Jesus.
Well.
Yeah, because it's saying that he did this all the time. So
Okay.
it was just kind of building up.
Well, that's
My character being a cleric and with the life domain, my character would have stopped this, but my character was somewhere else at the time. So when I came back, I see our barbarian holding this person pretty much ripped in half. And I'm like, yeah, I literally asked, like, freaking out, like, what happened? How did she die? And our barbarian goes, holding both halves of those bodies, heart attack. And I was like, and so the DM tells me the DM tells the guy to make a persuasion check on me, and for me to roll against it. I actually rolled slightly better than him, but I told the DM I purposely fudged my roll and told him I nat 1 just because I thought it'd be funnier.
Oh.
And so the next thing you know, like, the DM's like, yeah, you believe him. His heart attack was so bad the guy just exploded.
He exploded.
Seems legit.
Yeah, that seems good. So, and speaking of which,
That is.
so there was it's when we started playing 4th edition for the first time. It was, we're new to the system, so our DM decided to straight up do a school. Like, we're all students in an adventurer school that trains adventurers, right? Poor guy, we had a hard time. Kept going to Hogwarts. He's like, it's not Hogwarts! But, oh, our poor teacher. Kept trying to hook her up. Anyways. So, we had a colorful assortment of characters. We had my character who was a dwarf orphan who had an adoptive father. And he was very much like I was a very lawful character, very hard on the laws and all that jazz. And my little brother was playing this cleric. And my little brother makes like the best characters. He doesn't play very often. Maybe that's why his characters are great, because he doesn't play all that much. Anyways, sorry, just so one time we go out into the field to accomplish some task. I forget what, but it involves going to this farmhouse, right? Now, in our group, there's me and there's another guy who's this warlord. And he's the only other character in the group who's like a frontline fighter. Because we have this cleric, and we have an elf, a wood elf rogue, who dresses in all black, writes terrible poetry, and just hides in the shadows all the time.
Oh my god, such an edgelord.
And but the thing is, the player made fun of him the entire time. Like, it was very intentional and hilarious, and self-aware. And in fact, so the DM said, at one point he's like, oh yeah, by the way, HP is an abstraction, so it can represent whatever you want. What do you guys want your HP to be? And I was like, oh, now my character takes it to the face, bruises, broken bones, cuts, whatever have you. The cleric, my little brother, was playing what was called a laser cleric, which is an early 4th edition build where it uses just nothing but range attacks or ranged spell attacks, which they call it a laser cleric because they're basically shooting lasers everywhere. And he decided that his HP was a laser cage that surrounded him. As he took damage, the laser cage faded. And this elf, he had this slight aura of darkness perpetually around him, and the more damage he took, the more and more he sunk into the aura of darkness. There we go. Heck, no, keep cutting out. Anyways, so as a result, this other guy, who was this warlord, was the only real character that my character actually kind of liked and respected, right? So we go to this farm, and what's the word for it? Our warlord decides to get frisky with the farmer's daughter, right? Comes out, and the farmer is mad. The group is mad. Like, did you do what we think you did? And he's like, no. Rolls, fumbles. But because he's lying, we all have to roll basically sense motive or insight checks. I roll, I also fumble. But here's the thing, he still beats my fumble with his fumble by a few points. So I'm the only person in the entire party that believes him when he said I did nothing wrong. So everyone's like, you filthy, and I'm like, don't you besmirch his honor. He's a good, honorable man, and he would never do anything like that.
A good, honorable man.
He died later.
The end.
I've got a nice, fantastic story. I do believe I have told this one before, but... So, a long time ago, when I played my very first character, we had gotten word that a nearby village was being terrorized by a wizard. So we're going over there, we're like, alright, that's a wizard, might be a little hard. Keep in mind, this is early in our game when we were a lot more lighthearted and not currently, where we're fighting dark, evil gods and trying to save the entire multiverse. But this is back when we were fighting things like cavity creeps and Billy Witch Doctor. So we're going. We're like, oh, wizard, he might be a little tough. So we finally get to him. He's in this tent. He's like, ha, 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 I will destroy you with my magic prowess. First turn attacks me. You shall drown in the power of my water. And then he casts Create Water.
Yeah, that'll give you something good.
Next turn he attacks someone else. You will be set ablaze. Casts Spark. And it turns out that this wizard sucks. He has a negative. He has
Really?
a -4 in his casting mod, and he can only cast cantrips.
Oh wow.
So we all pretty much that. So we all look at each other, and my character has a bit of a reputation for doing one thing, and that's punching people in the groin. Also, I forgot to mention, my character's a monk, by the way.
Does your character...
Oh my god, you mentioned this back whenever we were doing the siege at Baikonur.
So,
But
quick
you
question.
know the whole story.
Does your character wear sunglasses and is trained to become a Hollywood movie star?
No,
You just got
she was a squirrel folk changeling.
Okay.
Anything about anything. So anyways, we all just take turns just destroying this guy. Shots to the crotch, shots to the crotch, shots to the crotch, crit to the crotch.
Oh. Why?
And so we eventually beat him that way. Now, meanwhile, before we went to fight this guy, one of my other party members went around and tried to convince everyone in the village to become followers of a dark evil god named Edursius. So after we beat this guy, we take him back to the village so that the villagers can punish him for his crimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they tie him up. They start torturing him, like public humiliation. Then they start torturing him. Then all of a sudden they just start ripping him to shreds. They rip him to shreds and they start eating him. And it's like, my party member literally turned an entire village into chaotic evil worshippers of an evil god.
While you were punching someone in the groin.
GG.
We actually returned, I think, 2 years later, we returned as different characters, and it was so different. It was like, one of the buildings got outfitted into a cathedral. It's all dark. There's all these, lizard folk walking around.
Well.
It was fantastic.
I do.
Listen, we beat up a guy who couldn't cast magic and then transformed an entire village into serial killers.
Bravo.
I have a bit of a story. It's a real quick one.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday I was on the D&D subreddit, and this guy was talking about how his sister was playing D&D for the very first time, and she makes a druid. And whenever they get to this encounter against this bandit crew and their bandit leader, the first thing that this druid does is hide in the bushes and starts looking for something. The DM's like, okay, yeah, you get mushrooms. Turns out that's exactly what she was looking for. And so when it comes to her turn, the bandit leader, he has a mount. He gets off of it and goes to fight these guys. So what this druid does is first cast animal friendship on the horse.
Alright.
And then, so they start fighting some more, and her turn comes around again. Then she casts, and the guy starts making her, run back to his mount and goes to hop on it. That's when the druid casts Entangle on the horse. And because of animal friendship being cast, it's like, oh yeah, this horse trusts that this druid's not going to harm it in any way.
Rock on. So it just sort of sits there and lets the brambles.
So yeah, like so the horse is sitting there like unable to move because of the entangle, and the band is just trying so hard to get this horse to move. And that just gives the part of his paragraph just rip the guy off the horse and just beat him to death.
Well,
Oh,
rip that
oh,
guy.
oh my God! I just got remembered of something. So, this was, I believe, the second time I ever played Manwich in a campaign. This is Manwich Generation 2.
Oh boy.
So, we're heading over to this island to stop an evil group from, I guess, getting like dragon eggs or something. I don't know. And so we're going along. First off, we see this one chick being captured away, and Manwich is like, I'm gonna go and save her. He just charges at this guy, like, just hammer at the ready, raising it up. It's like a slow motion thing. The guy is turning around, like, whoa. And Manwich, nat ones. Just, hammer falls just a few feet short, and he's like, well, this is awkward. That's not the thing. So later on, we're getting through. And we're walking around. This guy comes up on a horse. And he starts monologuing. Like, haha, hopeless fools, you face I forget what it's called. You face the syndicate. And as he's talking, we all just charge him. We pull him off his horse, and we just kill this guy. In the middle of his monologue, just kill him.
He was monologuing while you were beating him.
He was literally like, haha, hapless fools, ah! And just hammers, swords, magic.
Reminds me of the time when, So, for those of you who were there when I was talking about characters and character backstories, so I played a friar. Well, technically he was a cleric, but I decided he was a jolly friar. He had a perpetual smile and had a bouncy, belly and whatever have you. And his favorite hobby was marrying people. Just high school, don't ask questions. Anyways, but the reason he became a friar was because the church that he was a member of had started to become really corrupt, and he was like, I don't want nothing to do with it, so he left. Well, we arrive at this location. We went there for story reasons. I forget exactly what was going on. And we open the door, walk in, and there, standing at the other side of the room, is the guy who was like the main reason that the church became corrupted. And he started talking, and right as he opened his mouth, I say to the DM, I'm making a cold shot to his teeth. And he's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I'm hitting his teeth right now. And he's like, So I smacked the dude in his teeth, and then I had a course, so I smacked him again, and then he was dead, I think, like a turn later. And my poor DM was like, but why? I was like, talking, and he had like this cool attack and stuff, and I was like, dude, you took the whole reason my character's on an adventure and put it right in front of him. What did you expect to happen? And he's like, okay, I guess so.
But why the teeth?
Because it was extra painful. It was to get a point across. The dude was not happy to see him. But, oh, shoot, there reminded me of another story, but I forgot what it was. Oh.
I'm trying to think of stories I haven't already told.
So here's the story. This one is a story about, this one's not really a funny story, but it's a good story. It's a good story with a good moral lesson for those of you who plan on making villains. So, in this particular campaign, the DM decided magic exists only in the form of crystals, and you need to have these crystals in order to do anything. This includes martial prowess.
Crystals.
Actually, is that relevant to the story? I don't think it is.
It is now.
Anyways,
It is not.
it's a really interesting story. We actually, that was one of the few games we've actually finished. Anyways, so we come across this guy, or we come across this town. This entire town has this this dark cloud around it, right?
Crystals.
And we show up, and apparently, what has happened is everyone in the town is already dead. And they start walking up as puppets and start to sort of walking towards us. And the guy...
Sounds familiar, like a certain spy deer.
And we hear this voice of this dude basically taunting us. And, he's purposely sending towards us. I think this is how it happened. He was purposely sending towards us, people we would most not want to see in this condition. We really didn't do a lot of combat. It was more of just like this not cool moment, you know what I mean? Like this seriously intense, like, villain moment.
Whoa, bro, not cool, man.
So we end up getting out, and our characters are emotionally scarred from this experience. Well, my character isn't because reasons, and that led to another thing. But anyways.
Sounds like freaking Elder Scrolls.
Well, okay. So what happened is this character would always crit and fumble at the worst possible times. Like, and every time he did, it made things like, first off, the other party members weren't very fond of him. This character, when I played him, the first couple times I played him, I forgot what his voice was. So every time I played him, I used a slightly different voice. And eventually, I just stopped. Eventually, I just got to, I wonder what voice I'll use this week. And he was very much an anime protagonist. He was bold, brash, and his damage mechanic was the more targets there were in his spells, the more damage he did. He got like a +2 bonus per target. And so as a result, his style was he'd run into combat and just AoE everything as much as he could. So, what happened is, well, prior to that, like, we were wandering a swamp, and I think I crit failed to get us to navigate, and then I crit succeeded on my silly lie about, no, we're not lost.
What?
Like, it was supposed to be an easy-to-see lie, but I rolled and crit anyways. And, so when we get out, we go through this horrible experience, and then we go up this hill afterwards, and it's overlooking this doomed village. I think we dispelled the fog. I don't remember exactly, but what I do remember is that the characters were all deeply disturbed by this, and I decided to roll a what was that? An insight check on myself or something like that. The idea was it was to help my character sort of work through it. You know what I mean? And sort of come to grips with what happened and accept it and be able to sort of emotionally move on. You know what I mean? Well, I crit that check, so my character basically was able to accept it in an emotionally healthy way, like right on the spot, which is the worst possible thing, because all of a sudden he was like, but we need to move on. And everyone was like, are you insane? You're a horrible person. Don't you care? I was like, oh, why did you roll now? Why did you decide to crit now of all times? Dice? Because by rolling a crit, it made him less empathetic to his party members. Anyways. So, later on, we go to this big council. And we go to this big council room. And the way it works is not all the attendants can be there physically. So some of them are there, via like astral projection or whatever have you, right? So this villain dude, this dude who basically murdered a village and made them his like shadow puppet thingies, shows up and starts murdering the council members as well. But we can't touch him because he's basically on the same plane of existence that the people are projecting themselves onto to be in the meeting. So he starts murdering these important people kind of before us, and there's not a lot we can do to really stop him. But I think we managed to get him off along with some lackeys. So what happens is After that point, the DM gives us two choices. He's like, all right, basically, you can I'm putting it in a more meta way, but basically we can follow the plot, or we can basically not follow the plot and go join this war effort against basically these people of Shadow. And me and the other dude were like, all right, we're gonna go kill that dude. We're just gonna go kill that villain right now. And our DM's like, but if you don't follow the plot, like, we don't care. We don't care about the plot. We want to kill the villain. This dude this needs to die. And our DM suddenly realized he had made a villain that was so hateful that his players refused to follow the plot until he was dead. So what he ended up doing is, he's like, okay, because if we didn't follow the plot, then it would be game over. So he told us, all right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this guy into where you guys are headed, so you end up facing him anyways. We're like, okay, then we'll go and follow your plot. So, moral of the story. Think carefully before you have your villains do villainous things. I cut out. Think carefully before you have your villains do villainous things, lest they are too villainous and your players are willing to forsake the greater good just to kill them.
But that's not forsaking the greater good just to kill them.
Well, that's the thing. It would have
Because
been...
if they're evil enough, it is the greater good to kill them.
Well, with the way the story was set, killing them would have been game over for everybody. Because what the matter he was involved in was a smaller matter compared to what we were getting ready to go do.
Well, did the players know that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and you still want to kill the guy anyways. That's why our DM had to basically compromise and negotiate with us.
Moral of the story, DMs need to make sure the main plot is the most important thing.
Or at least the most emotionally engaging thing. Oh, which reminds me of another silly story. But before I go into that, did anybody else have any funny little, interesting little stories they wanted to share?
I have one.
Go ahead.
Okay, this was a campaign I wasn't playing. I was actually watching, and these people, they were on like they're on their like final session, and they were ready to fight the big bad. But they had told me, what the general story was going on, and like who this random NPC in their party is. Because this NPC actually ended up playing like a big part, because they told me that there was actually I believe it's either a goblin or a kobold, I can't really remember at this point because it was so long ago, that they had captured and basically keep as their kind of pack mule, their slave. But they just grew too attached to the character. And so they finally get to the big bad guy who is basically, trying to usurp this throne for like this kingdom. And so once they defeat him and stuff, they're able to save the royal family, but the king, like, all his heirs are dead and stuff, and he's on his deathbed because they couldn't save him in time. And so, as a joke, one of the party members decides, I'm gonna roll a persuasion check for this guy to name this goblin or kobold as his heir. Nat 20. So it's like, that's how it was a goblin. That's how a goblin became the leader of a mainly human nation. And then as a joke, the DM's like, I'm gonna make a roll, see how effective this rule was. Immediate other nat 20. So it's like, this random goblin who they captured randomly led this king to a golden age.
Did he execute the heroes that treated him like a slave?
It was just so funny.
That's, well, it's always the ones you expect the least, be it goblins that lead kingdoms to golden ages. I mean, how about you, but I wouldn't mind being that kingdom. Although, speaking of unexpected things, so I was playing a bard, and this bard was a jerk. Like, it's funny. You look at his track record and what he's actually done, and he's actually done a lot of really good things. Like, what did he do? He saved the soul of a cleric heading towards corruption. He stopped an invading army. He did a number of other, like, actually significant, important things. But the thing is, he was a total scumbag, and everybody hated his guts. Anyways, because just the way he went about everything was super skeezy. So anyways, as a result, and he always made the opportunity to make life as difficult as possible for people he didn't like. Like, for example, someone was waiting for him, so he intentionally walked the entire distance from point A to point B just to make them wait longer. So that said, there's a, how did we even get onto this? So he had to go to a town. He went to a town that was run by elves, and the elves had decided that it was morally acceptable to enslave drow. So he bought one of these drow slaves and released them. And then he went back to the town. And as it turns out, he and another guy who they had a very iffy relationship with, they often worked together, but they as often as not left the other one for dead. So anyways, they discover that there's this crazy cult going on because, crazy cultists, why not? He goes in to investigate, and it turns out that it's they get attacked by something called a roper, right? Now, these things, the way they work is they look kind of like trees. And they throw out these tentacles that paralyze you, and then they drag you in, and then rip open your skull and eat your brains, right? Well, turns out that my character failed all the relevant saves needed to do this. So the thing drags him in, my character loses consciousness, and because my character at this point is so pivotal to the narrative, because the narrative is actually centered around this character, he wakes up in a chamber. And rather than, dying and ending everything. Wakes up, and he starts being interrogated by this cultist who has, like, psionics. And he crits and passes everything he needs to. So this guy is convinced that this bard is, like, this amazing psionist. But that's beside the point. The real point is he discovers that this is a cult of freaking mind flayers who are trying to come up. The moment he discovers this information, he's like, how about a big pile of nope with a side of I'm out of here sandwich, and immediately teleports out of the town and it just completely leaves the plot behind. And my DM actually is like, no, I need you to go back to the town so we can do the story. I'm like, but my character has nothing to do. Like, my character does not want to be there. Like, period, the end. There's nothing in my character that makes him want to go back to the town. What do you want me to do? So, after a moment, I finally broke my character and made him go back to town anyways. Oh, I'm sorry. I got the story mixed up. Because he found about the mind flayers, then he left, then he went back to the town, and then he supposedly died. Which kind of, in my opinion, kind of justifies his reason for leaving. But it's okay, because at the end of the day, what ended up happening is it turns out he was friends, with heavy quotation marks, with a paladin, and basically he showed up on a doorstep. He's like, yo, so there's this town with a whole bunch of mind flayers underneath. You might want to take care of that. And she's like, okay. So got a small army of paladins together, raided and murdered a lot of them. It was great. So, another good lesson to learn. Make sure your players
Have a paladin as a friend.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I can't tell you how useful that was. Oh.
Have a paladin as a friend?
And she was supposed to die. She was actually supposed to be dead super early in the story, but the dice decided randomly to keep her alive, and ever since then she became a pivotal resource for my character to call on.
But paladins judge you on doing things like, stealing from the god of death or something like that.
Yeah, she was aware. She was aware that dude was a scumbag, but the only reason she didn't throw him behind bars or smite him right away was because he was more useful to her free than not. Because they often actually had a lot of really useful information for them and led them to basically pockets of major evil. That, and he might have delved into a city of dead to rescue her.
Oh, so you mean the exact thing I said that was a bad thing that paladins would judge you for?
Well, he was saving the paladin's life. In fact, he saved her life twice. At the risk of his own. So, good friends. And, is there another good story? Oh, there's so many. I'd rather not bring up the blueberries. That's bad memories.
Blueberries?
Yes.
Bring them up!
So, I actually have a story.
Oh, go on.
So, this is another
Blueberries?
This is another Manwich story.
Oh, good.
This is Manwich Generation 3, the legend of how Manwich became a jelly god. So, the DM for this campaign is, for lack of a better term, a pervert.
Oh dear.
One of the mechanics that I exploited for jokes is that certain potions change your body in certain ways. This includes slimes and blobs and whatnot.
Lovely.
So Manwich, being not smart, ever, kills one of these things and immediately tries to figure out what it is. And he nat ones. It is a blob of, just dark liquid stuff, and the first thing that comes to my mind is, this is jelly!
Let me guess, it's black pudding.
I can't remember what it was, but it was acidic. So it's alright, so Manwich takes a potion of this, scoops it up into a vial, and is like, I'm gonna save this for later. Later on, he actually, while they're resting, pulls out the vial and begins spreading it on a piece of bread. And I'm there waiting for someone to tell me that this is a bad idea. I'm like, someone is like, no, it'll probably burn your mouth. I'm like, oh, so it's spicy jelly. Oh yeah, it's really spicy. Oh boy! Not even saying hey, Manwich, that's actually from a slime. He's like, oh boy, spicy jelly! Just starts eating it. And so slowly but surely, it's only a slight change, but he slowly begins transforming into a slime himself.
Delicious.
Slime lords.
So, as we keep going on, Manwich continues to devour more and more slimes, eventually becoming a slime himself. And not realizing that he is causing harm to his body, he tries to figure out what's going on to his body, and he again nat ones.
Well, I'll have to drop off story time here. It's time for Colorado versus Ego.
Woo!
Well, go enjoy the time.
Wait, So Manwich nat ones is intelligence or whatever, and is like, I know what's happening to me. I'm becoming a jelly god. And so he just only continues to consume more and more slimes, eventually devolving into an unrecognizable creature. And I 100% tried to keep, tried to keep, but he fell down a pit, didn't die. He technically was still alive, but my DM was like, all right, roll up a new character. And so, in another universe, Manwich becoming a slime. Oh, give me a moment.
So,
Jeopardy theme intensifies.
Sorry about that.
that reminds me of something I may have made up in notes once for a campaign. So, sorry, you gonna finish your
No, I was just gonna say,
story?
in another, I was gonna say, in another universe, there's an unrecognizable Manwich slime that has become the god of all slimes and jellies.
Inside of a pit, inside of a ditch.
Yeah. But yeah. So that reminds me of something I made up for a campaign. That was gonna be an interdimensional bar. And one of the things it sells is a tank cocktail, which has like venom from all these different things and black pudding and stuff in it.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
What's the story?
Yeah.
It's not a story because we never ran it.
Oh,
Well,
It's the
as it
story
is,
that could have been.
as it is, story time is almost over. I just want to I want to leave off on a night. I want to leave off on a nice inspirational note with a nice inspirational story.
is it the story of that one rocks session?
Or is it the story of saving someone for Pharasma?
That's inspirational.
Because I never not tell that story, right?
What?
It's an important
I've
story.
never told that story before.
Oh,
The one that I tell every time I talk.
You know what? I think I will. I think the last story will be the story of my half-elf bard who saved the soul of a cleric. 'Cause that's the best story that comes to my mind.
Oh yeah, you mean the one that ends terribly with everyone dead?
Yeah. So, this is the same half-elf from before. So, this is a... Before this, he never took a job unless there was, like, unless it was hard cash. Like, he legitimately was a pretty heartless guy. Life had dealt him a harsh blow and tragic backstory and all that jazz. Well, sort of tragic. Anyways, he'd always been, a reject for society because not only was he a half-elf, his mother was a legit elf noble, his father was a ne'er-do-well charmer who basically showed up. But the thing is he also technically had the half-vampire template on him. Or had the half-vampire template on him. So as a result, he was always a little ashen-skinned and a little freakish. So, yeah, long story short, didn't really have a lot of love growing up. I mean, he grew up with his dad, and his dad took care of him relatively okay, but again, his dad was a criminal and a ne'er-do-well. So he always hated society and, just was out for number one. So he comes across, so he gets paid, I don't remember how he got the job, but, or no, maybe he was just an escort, or he was being escorted, I forget which. Point is there are these two sisters. I think one's a human, one's a half-elf. And the human is a performer, and the half-elf is a cleric. Or maybe she's a paladin. And as it turns out, after you got to know them a fair bit, turns out that this paladin had become consumed with jealousy in regards to her sister. And normally speaking, he would have said, don't care, too bad. But in a change of events, he said, "You know what? I'm gonna delve into this." I don't quite remember exactly how everything unfolded, but I think I remember discovering that she, in her jealousy, she'd actually begin allowing a dark presence into her heart, and it begun slowly possessing her and transforming her. And ultimately speaking, I think I ended up drawing out the essence and battling it and killing it, which nearly killed her in the process, but she ended up surviving. And as a result, she was like, "Why did you do this?" No, I think it was the Celestial was like, "Why did you do this? Like, you had no monetary gain from this." And he's like, because first off, you don't, because she understood. There are so few half-elves in this world, and we need to stick together. So I did this for her. And it's one of the few selfless things he'd ever done, and it was a moment that made me feel warm and fuzzy inside at the end of the day.
And then Olivia turned into a Hydra.
Rawr. Alright, that is Storytop Table Time. We will have a second one after the big team battle wind down party.
Okay.
So
But first the big team battle, right?
yes, and then there'll be a bit of a wind down afterwards.
Was that at 3?
Now the big team battle is at 5.
So was that 4 minutes ago or
No, it's a while from now.
Yeah,
It's 3
it's
hours
5
from
on my
now.
time.
yeah,
It's
5.
not 5 on my 8 on my time.
Yes.
I'm gonna go to watch a movie and go to sleep. Goodbye, guys.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Have a good night.
Have fun.
You too.
So that was story time. Thanks all for coming, and I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.